Hello, welcome to Hollywood Crime Scene. This is Rachel Fisher.
Hi, this is Desi, Jedeikin. Well, we're back for part 3 of Marlon Brando. This guy's life is too fucking full of stuff.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I did not get to the murder and trial in this episode. It'll be the banger for next episode.
Stay tuned.
So there's a lot to talk about. My sources are the same as last week: The Contender by William Mann, Brando's memoir, Songs My Mother Taught Me, and Brando, the biography by Peter Manzo. Where we left off last episode, Marlon is now on a career high after winning an Oscar for The Godfather, and he had a second widely lauded performance in Last Tango in Paris. At this point, he can command top dollar again and basically pick whatever he wants to do. He's also very involved with AIM, American Indian Movement, and is pretty much never at home, whether it be because he's filming or doing his work with AIM. And this leaves his troubled teen son, Christian, who he now has full custody of, at home in Hollywood pretty much on his own. Okay, so that's where we left off. And here's where we're going to pick up. We're in January of 1975. Marlon goes to speak at an AIM fundraiser in Nebraska, and while he's there, 45 Menominee Indians who call themselves the Warrior Society have occupied an abbey in a Wisconsin town that's about an hour and a half from Green Bay. This takeover is because that they feel they were cheated financially broken by the Restoration Act. And they found an obscure law that allows tribes to take over abandoned religious property. So they did this. And of course, the government had other ideas about what that law meant. So after a week of them occupying this abbey, 250 law enforcement were showing up at the abbey. So they're basically in a standoff. Shortly after that, 50 members of AIM arrives. On January 31st, Brando arrived saying he was going to try and raise the $750,000 that they needed to purchase the land, but then he did something unexpected. He joined them inside the abbey during the standoff.
Oh my God.
So he starts making a speech in front of them saying that the standoff isn't worth losing life over, and he's basically booed. Then he keeps giving a speech and gets really emotional during it. At some point during his emotional speech, someone in the audience mutters, "Fuck, this guy's just acting." Oh, and people start laughing. He shrugs and goes into the kitchen, and he sinks into a chair, kind of depressed. Then he asks if they really might be shot at, and everyone is like, yeah, they're like literally pointing guns at us all around this abbey. So he asks to be taken to this bell tower so he can kind of survey what's going on around them. And while he's being taken up there and they're on this sort of outside deck towards the bell tower, people start shooting at them, and he gets thrown onto the ground. Someone lays across him, and he's like kicking and yelling and like losing his shit. He's like, "Those are real bullets.
Yeah.
Get me out of here." Now he's scared shitless, but later when he gives an interview with Playboy, he tells a very different story. They ask him, "Were you scared?" And he's like, "No, it was unbelievable. People going out with guns and ammunitions. Bullets were flying around." And the people who were with him that day read the interview, and they were like, "We were just laughing because we're like, that's total bullshit. He shit himself." No, just kidding. But he did put his money where his mouth was, and he did spend a lot of money funding these causes, which is part of why he keeps taking movie work, because he really doesn't like being on screen at this point. He does not want to work. He also had all of his kids in Exes to pay for, as well as his private island. That is like a huge financial burden to him at this point.
He still hasn't sold this island?
No, not only has he not sold it, but he's putting money into ecological, experiments, scientific experiments, trying to make this into some moneymaker. So he's trying to figure out ways to bring income in with this island. So he signs up for 2 more movies. One of them is called The Missouri Breaks. It is directed by Arthur Penn, and that will eventually earn him $16.5 million. And the second is Superman, which will eventually get him $15 million for 15 minutes of combined on-screen time.
Damn.
Now, this might be like what I first knew about Marlon Brando. that he would get paid like millions of dollars for like 5 minutes of work.
Yeah.
Like he was the highest paid actor ever. Like obviously that's changed. So I think that was like how I first knew him. Mm-hmm. I was like, who's this guy? So he goes off to film Missouri Breaks, which is co-starring Jack Nicholson. This is a big deal because it's the first time they're on screen together. I guess probably the only time. And I mentioned this incident last episode. He is close friends with the AIM leader, Dennis Banks, and this guy, Leonard Peltier. And they happen to be involved in a standoff with the FBI that leads to two dead agents. They escape this standoff, and this leads to at the time, the biggest manhunt in FBI history. Dennis suggests hiding out at his Mulholland house, and they head there while Marlon is filming this movie. Meanwhile, the movie cast and crew, they're wondering if Marlon is even going to show up. So on the day he's supposed to arrive, they kind of gather to await his arrival, and they see a Winnebago being driven towards them with Marlon Brando behind the wheel.
He's driving the Winnebago?
He's driving a Winnebago. So he parks the Winnebago, climbs out, and looks around at all the cast and crew, and he's like, how do you do? I'm Marlon Brando. I'm sorry. So he's like, from the first day of shooting, it becomes very clear that he's in an experimental phase, and he's going to try some weird shit. Now, I watched a lot of clips on YouTube of this movie, and it is truly a bizarre performance, and it's like all over the place. So, like, for instance, the day he started shooting, his first line, no one knew he was going to do this. He has an Irish accent, like out of nowhere. It's not the character.
Why?
He just decided to make an Irish accent and kept using it. And nobody had the courage to say, why are you doing this? So they just let him do this Irish accent the whole movie.
That's so crazy.
And people were literally saying that. Is he crazy? Because we can't use this shot. And this kept happening, but nobody stood up to him. When he wasn't shooting, he was in his Winnebago where he would talk people's ears off literally for hours about anything. And he was also on a new diet because whenever he filmed, he would try to like drop some weight. And this time his diet was exclusively eating slices of turkey breast and tab.
No carbs?
He was on a no carb diet. He was an early, that was it.
He's an early adopter.
Yeah. Tab is so... Have you ever had a tab? I don't think I ever have.
I've never had a tab. I think they still
Not that I
make
know
it.
of. One morning they're shooting and he just out of nowhere is in the middle of a shot, picks up a live frog from the river and takes a bite of it and throws it back into the river.
No, he doesn't.
Yes, he did.
Why?
I don't
Desi.
know. He's weird. He's very weird, Rachel.
Why would you do that?
Another time he is supposed to be shooting like at Jack Nicholson and he shoots at grasshoppers instead. So they had to like redo it. And then when he wasn't happy with how that scene started going, he climbed on his red Honda trail bike and drove off into the prairie. And Jack Nicholson said, oh, well, another day, another 21 grand down the drain. He's so weird. So perhaps his most bizarre thing that he did, though, was one day he showed up on set in a Mother Hubbard-style dress and bonnet. Sorry. This scene is crazy because this was the first scene I saw from the movie.
Wait,
he's
kept
in like
this?
he's in like a Little House on the Prairie dress, like a Bathsheba dress, and a huge bonnet.
Why? Wait, they kept that in?
Yeah. So this is for his climactic scene with Jack Nicholson. And people were like, oh, is he just trying to conceal his excess weight? Like, what is he doing?
Is this an art film? Like, why?
No, it's a Western, and I actually want to see it because it looks insane. He said it was very fitting for his character. And Penn, once again, went along with it. He also went along with, Brando at some point told him, don't say action, say Marlon. So he's just like doing shit to fuck with people.
Wow.
He later did say that using the costume was to kind of hide his weight because he wasn't able to lose weight fast enough and he didn't want to ruin his hunk reputation.
All that turkey, sliced turkey and tab for nothing.
No. So now they're filming this movie and all this weird shit is going on. But at some point the director is like, wait, we're billing this as like Brando Nicholson together at last. And they have hardly any scenes together. So Brando comes up with this idea that he can be in a bathtub playing with bubbles like a child when he's confronted by Jack Nicholson, who was trying to kill him. But he's like, oh, this is too sad. He's so childlike, I can't kill him. And this is the scene where Marlon supposedly did a take where he farts during the scene in the tub.
Not in the tub.
Yeah, so it had that like, whoop, whoop, like the dolphin underwater sound.
I'm going to throw up.
In another scene, he's supposed to like wake up Randy Quaid, who's snoring with his mouth open.
And Randy Quaid's in this movie?
You know who else is in it? Harry Dean Stanton.
Wait, when was this made?
76. So it's like all those guys, you know?
Wait, how long has Randy Quaid been in movies for?
I think he's been in movies for a very long time, but this might be one of his first movies, right?
I thought he just like materialized in the 80s.
For Vacation.
Yeah.
No, he's in this movie.
I guess I didn't know he had such a long career.
No, he's a very long, prolific, successful actor. Not anymore, probably.
No.
So instead of waking up Randy Quaid with this line of dialogue, he just drops a live grasshopper down his throat, and Randy like almost chokes on it.
So now we've reached this is like the semi-dangerous prank level.
Yes. So this was such a unique thing that everyone was like, whoa. And they just kept doing it that way for the other takes. They're like, forget that. Let's do the grasshopper thing. So Randy has to keep doing it over and over. Maybe that was the start of him losing his mind.
That's so annoying.
So while he's filming this movie, he's regularly visited by the FBI, who are questioning him about the whereabouts of Peltier and Banks, who are just at his house. Marlon actually doesn't know they're at his house.
Are they in his house?
Yes, they got in his house, but Marlon doesn't know. Like, he doesn't care, or he wouldn't care, but he doesn't know.
How'd they get in?
Well, he always has people there. Like, there's just
Right.
people always there who probably let them in. So when he arrives home, he sees Peltier, who he's actually never met but knows of, sleeping on his couch, and he gets his gun thinking it's an intruder, but Banks comes out and gives him the tea on, like, what's going on.
Yeah.
And Marlon's like, what do you need? Do you need lawyers? Like, he's down to help these guys continue escaping. He gives them 10 grand and his Winnebago to continue their escape.
That's nice.
So they promptly fill that up with weapons and are heading back to Washington State. They're planning for another confrontation with law enforcement, but they get busted in Oregon, and Peltier escapes after being shot. The FBI find in Marlon's Winnebago 7 boxes of dynamite, hand grenades, firearms, a revolver that was taken from one of the dead FBI agents, and several of Brando's credit cards and airline tickets charged to Brando.
You don't want people finding that inside your vehicle.
No. Now, Peltier is now once again on the 10 most wanted list. Maybe he moved up a slot. And he's eventually arrested, but Marlon helps Dennis Banks get to his private Tahitian island, where he hangs out for a bit before eventually returning and surrendering.
Why'd he return?
I don't know. I guess it wasn't like a good thing to do long term. And I don't think he was as in much trouble as Peltier.
Right.
But yeah.
He was like bored of Tahiti.
Right. So Christian at this time, he announces that he's dropping out of high school, and Brando is obviously disappointed. Christian's buying a motorcycle. He doesn't like that. And he complains to his friend Patricia Quinn about Christian's rebellious nature, drinking, drugs. And she's like, well, you're a drunk and disorderly person, and you had a motorcycle. You were an outlaw. Isn't it hypocritical for you to be this way? And he's like, I'm stopping him from committing the same mistakes, saying, do as I say, not as I do. That was his parenting philosophy.
That's a classic.
Absolutely. Now, during this time, Marlon was involved with a woman named Jill Banner. She was a young actress he had met on the set of his film Candy, and she was living at Mulholland, basically helping to watch Christian while Marlon was constantly away on these various things. They bonded over their feelings of abandonment and rejection from Marlon. And according to Patricia Quinn, they eventually start sleeping together at Mulholland.
So Christian and this actress.
Yeah, so she's like in her 20s.
And he's a teenager?
He's like 17, 18 maybe.
Right.
So she was sleeping with Marlon too at the same time, obviously. So according to Patricia, she's like, this is like a little bit incestuous to me.
Yeah, it's gross.
So and Steve Junio, Christian's friend, he said that he didn't think Christian was trying to compete with his father, and he didn't talk to Steve, too much about Jill. But he said that Christian had a lot of feelings for her. And obviously when Marlon found out about this, it was a huge fight between them all. Now, Missouri Breaks comes out, and the reviews are not kind. They're like, Marlon's performance is insane. It's indulgent. One person called it camp, and it is camp in like a good way.
Yeah.
Like, I'm telling you, that Mother Hubbard dress scene is like wild.
Yeah.
So he basically, once again, is like, oh, fuck this life, and retreats to his private island. And like I said, he's like, I want to make a resort here. And there's a lot of things you have to do in order to build in this type of area, because they have a lot of weather issues. There's a lot of corrosion happening. They have typhoons in this area.
Yeah.
So he has to do all these things to build things safely. He's also working on other ecological projects he wants to do on the island. And one of the things he really wants to do is build a lobster farm.
A lobster farm?
Yeah. He's like, he wants some lobster rolls out on that island. So that's like his other big idea, that he's going to build this lobster farm and make some money that way. So once again, he's like, shit, I need to get some more movies going, because I'm running out of money fast. So I've already said he's taking on Superman for $3 million, and now he agrees to appear in Francis Ford Coppola's Apocalypse Now for $3.5 million. In addition to his own money, he's trying to get investors and possibly raise money on a game show style TV show where you can win a vacation to Marlon Brando's private island. So he's like scheming for ways to make money. And that's one of his ideas, a game show.
He is blowing money.
Yeah. So now he's like, has to go to these islands with investors and try to sell them on this, idea of turning this into a resort island. And he's a very unusual salesperson, to say the least. One investor talked about going and like exploring the island with Marlon, and at some point they're walking on the beach and Marlon says to him, "You like Mounds bars?" Sorry. And the guy's like, "Sure." And he's like, "Have you ever tried a real one?" And he's like, "What are you talking about?" And Marlon gets a Tahitian boy to climb up a tree, bring down a coconut. Marlon cuts it open and then puts a piece of chocolate bar, melts it in the sun, and stirs it with the coconut. And is like, here's a real Mounds bar, a homemade Mounds bar, which sounds actually good to me.
That sounds good.
And then this guy also gets a tour of the kitchen. At some point, Brando's like, "Do you like bread?" He's like, "Sure." And Brando gets one of the women to make them a fresh baguette, and she brings it out to them. I was like, this sales would work on me.
In real time?
Yeah, I guess they had the dough ready to go, and they popped the bread in.
They had the dough.
Yeah, not in real time. That would have been like 24 hours at least, right?
Well, depending on what kind of bread you're making.
Yeah, if it's sourdough. So Brando once again is stressed because he has to lose weight for his upcoming role in Apocalypse Now. Now, this isn't just his vanity. The character he's playing is described as scrawny because it's someone who has basically been living in the jungle for months with nothing but like whatever he can scrounge up to eat. And obviously, you would probably lose a lot of weight under those circumstances. He has his friend, Patricia Quinn, fly in to house sit. They're really close. Like, she's like all over this book.
I can't believe this.
Yeah. I had no idea they were like besties, like for many years. So he tells her that he's kicked Christian out of the house and I don't want you to let him in and come here while I'm gone. He like forbids her from doing that. She's of course like, I can't do that. Like, she's close to Christian. And she kind of knows that if he comes by, she's going to like let him come in.
And where else is he going to stay?
Right. And he does come up and visit, but he'll go home at night and crash at friends' houses. But he does spend a lot of time there during the day.
Is that like where he stays otherwise? Is he like couch surfing at friends' houses?
Yeah, basically. And like they're so young still. It's like he'll be there, like if the parents will be there. It's like young people's houses.
Yeah.
So he's like once again in this turmoil over his father's abandonment and rejection. And Marlon's about to create some more turmoil on the set of Coppola's masterpiece, Apocalypse Now. But we will take a break and get back to that next. So Apocalypse Now is kind of a famous cursed movie set. So maybe we can cover that someday because I think it's a lot of stuff happens on this movie set. I'm going to mention some of it here, though. Starting from casting, even casting was a nightmare. Coppola had a lot of difficulty finding an actor to play the lead role of Willard. No one wanted to spend 17 weeks in a remote jungle in the Philippines. It was like really hard to get someone to commit to that.
Just for the shooting.
Yeah. And it ends up being way longer, by the way. So they were probably right to bail. He gets so frustrated by the casting process that he throws all 5 of his Oscars out of his San Francisco townhouse and only one survives the fall.
Coppola did that?
Yeah. These men are babies.
Why would you do that?
So he eventually cast Harvey Keitel in the role and gets Marlon to sign on for a small but important part of Colonel Kurtz. He requests that Marlon lose the weight and read the book Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad that the film is based on and kind of familiarize himself with the Kurtz in the book and what his motivation is. Because he wants to maintain creative control, Coppola basically signs on to be responsible for whatever cost incur over the budget, which creates a very tense situation for him since any setback or delay will cost millions of dollars. Filming starts in March of 1976, and Harvey Keitel is immediately fired once he sees the first day rushes. He replaces him with Martin Sheen. The typhoons hit the shooting location and destroy all the sets that they have just built.
Oh, no.
So before they're even have really shot any film, they're over budget by $3 million, like from the start.
And that's like 1976.
Yeah, I think their budget was $14 million initially. So they're already over budget.
Oh my God.
So Coppola asked Marlon if he can cut his salary because his salary was $3.5 million for 4 weeks.
He's like, no, I need this.
He's like, yeah, I'll do it for $1 million, but only for 1 week. So that's his compromise.
Yeah.
He also is like, and I want points because he's still kind of bitter about the Godfather points that he lost.
I'd be mad about that forever.
So the set is rumored to be very drug fueled and chaotic. People are fucking partying. I mean, it's the 70s. So Marlon arrives in August and not as promised, he is well over 250 pounds. He did not lose any of the weight that he promised. So they have to then kind of come up with a reason why this guy who's been in the jungle all these months is so big.
He's eating all the food.
That's kind of what they decide on. Brando's let's shoot me in a way that will camouflage the weight. Coppola's no, let's present him as this overindulgent guy who's eating all the stuff at the expense of his followers, basically, which I do think is a good way of making him look like a bad person, right?
It adds another layer.
But they decide they're also going to try to shoot the scenes as though Brando is 6'5". So they're going to shoot up. I don't know if you've seen the movie, but he's basically in shadow almost all of the scene. Yeah. And it is very creepy. So I do feel I love when you're dealing with a problem and it actually creates something that is more interesting in art.
Right.
So he also one day comes out of the dressing room and he says to Coppola, I think the character should be more like Kurtz in the book. And Coppola's like, that's what we talked about last spring before you took the part, after you read Heart of Darkness and we talked. And Marlon's like, I lied. I never read it. So he's just kind of okay, we need to move on because I only have you for a week. We don't have time for all this nonsense. But of course, Marlon shows up late his first day with a lot of questions about Kurtz's motivation, including why'd he go up the river in the first place, which is all in the book, by the way, and probably in the script. So they have to spend days having script conferences working on the character. During this tense script conference days, Marlon decides to throw a party one night for 400 people in order to kind of be like, I'm the good guy. I'm not causing delays.
Wait, 400 people?
Yes. They had so many. Yeah. There was so many people on this set and just bringing people in from
the town.
I'm sorry, Manila. There was a lot of people staying in Manila.
Yeah.
Francis goes over budget, but he's also part of the problem because he rents a luxury penthouse in Manila.
Oh my
God. That he
God.
goes back to and it's cut the cost, dude. You know what I mean? So also creating issues is that the script's ending hasn't even been figured out yet. They're like, they need to film this ending because Marlon's basically the ending. So they don't even have that figured out. Most importantly, whether he'll die or not at the end is sort of like this big decision. So Coppola is desperate at this point, and he's like, let's just see what Brando does, like improving. Like, let's see what will happen this way. And Marlon does come up with a lot of extraordinary dialogue. Years later, the sound man from the film, Jack Jacobson, plays a tape recording of his full improvised speech. Only like a few minutes of it actually get used in the film. And it's 18 minutes long, and some of it is incoherent, but most of it is brilliant, according to him. And you can hear how Marlon is like literally giving it his all. At the end of the speech, he's like, I've gone as far as I can go. If you need more, you can get another actor. So they decide he is eventually hacked to death with a machete. And this is probably like one of the most famous lines from the movie. His last words, the horror, which obviously a lot of people are like, that's a great ending to this scene, but as well as like a theme for the production problems and just Brando's like bleak outlook on life in general at this point.
Did he come up with that line himself?
I think so. I think that was part of his improv speech. So he finally leaves October 8th, 1976 and goes back to Tahiti. The film continues filming until mid-May of 1977. So this film shoots for 238 days.
What?
When the dust cleared from this all, the film cost over $27 million. So he went $13 million over budget, plus $10 million needed for the post-production. So Coppola had to put down like $24,000 of it. I'm sorry, $24 million.
Of his own money?
Yeah, to get this done.
He's got to make a lot of wine.
Yeah. So that's why he probably went into the wine business.
I was going to ask, does he have the winery yet?
I mean, he's doing that now with his new movie, basically paying for everything to get it done.
Why is he paying for it?
Because he wants it. He's like a control freak. I think he wants it. He doesn't want interference from the studio or whatever.
Okay.
I mean, whatever. He can do what he wants with his money. So, and 2 more years pass before there's a print of the movie that they're going to like put out. This film had 1.5 million feet of film to go through to edit.
Fuck.
Eventually it does premiere at Cannes and it wins the grand prize along with The Tin Drum. Coppola said about the film, my film is not about Vietnam, it is Vietnam. So there's a very famous documentary about the making of this movie directed by Coppola's wife that really shows a lot of stuff, including the fact that they had to shut down because Martin Sheen had a heart attack on set.
Oh my God.
So they were out for weeks for him to recover, obviously. It was just like nonstop. So next up for Brando is Superman the movie. He is playing the role of Superman's father, Jor-El. And Brando once
again... Wait a minute. Jor-El and KL?
Wait.
Kyle? What, isn't Superman's name Kyle?
Yeah, that's the last name is L. Is that their last name?
No, it's Superman. He's Jewish.
Oh, I had no idea.
Kyle Superman.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay, that makes sense. So Brando will be happy because Brando famously loves the Jewish people. I'm not joking either. The way he says it, it's always like, can you just say it a little differently?
Wait, I'm sorry. Who's playing the dad again?
Brando is playing the dad.
Brando's playing the dad.
This is the Christopher Reeve Superman.
Now, is this the Superman where Superman has to rescue the school bus full of children?
I believe so.
Or
That's like
that's 3. I feel like it's either 1 or 3. And
so there's 3, right? With Christopher Reeve?
Yes.
I don't remember.
But you know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about, but these movies, I know I've seen them probably, but I have no idea like which one is which.
I'm telling you, I've seen all of them. I don't remember. I remember stuff that happens in all 3 of them. I can't tell you what happens in like 1, 2, or 3.
No. So this is like the scenes where they're like in that crystal looking room.
Yeah.
Right.
The Fortress of Solitude.
Right. The Fortress of Solitude.
Right.
I guess.
I'm just making
I'm
stuff
not like
up.
a nerd, so I don't know. I kind of vaguely know it. But I was like, is that where the villain lives? I have no idea. But it is very crystalline solitude looking, so maybe.
I'm just guessing.
I think you're probably right. Don't add us. So Brando obviously has some very out there suggestions for his character before he goes into this. One day he calls director Richard Donner and says, Marlon wants to play the character so that he looks like a green suitcase.
Wait, a green suitcase?
That's what he wants. Then he calls Richard Donner to meet with him, and he tells the director he thought Jor-El, now this might lend a little credence to your theory, wants to look like a glowing green bagel.
Why green?
Because I think it's sort of, he only wants to speak in electronic sounds.
Hell yeah.
I guess because it's sort of electric green and glowy, maybe. I have no idea.
It's extraterrestrial.
Now, Donner, he's a little wise to Brando's, antics. And he's kind of like, this is his way of trying to get out of appearing in the movie. Like, put up these crazy ideas so that we're like, maybe this isn't going to work out. His co-star in the movie, Terrence Stamp, says that at some point Brando admits to him he hadn't read the script. This is on the first day of the set when they're shooting. And he's like...
I just honestly love the idea of Marlon Brando, like, pulling his co-star aside, like, while they're resetting the scene. And he's just like, hey, gotta let you in a little secret. I have no fucking idea what happens in this movie.
He's just like, did you read this shit? What's my first line? And he said, well, I don't want to read it because it might be real crap. And then he does eventually read the script and likes it. So he's like, okay, fine, I'll play Jor-El as a human. So Donner is very nervous about all of this stuff that's already gone down. And he starts asking Coppola and other directors, like, how does he deal with Marlon without, like, making him mad?
Yeah.
And they're kind of like, the key thing you need to know about him is that he doesn't like to work. So whatever makes too much, like, effort for him, he doesn't want to do it. So you need to make things as easy as possible. And that's part of why they like to let Brando improv.
Right.
Because then he doesn't have to memorize lines or read things. He can just go kind of wing it. And then it ends up being good because obviously he is really good at that.
So you could never cast this guy in, like, an Aaron Sorkin film where
oh my God,
where he's so anal about the words.
That would probably break him.
I would honestly love to see it.
That would be a great sketch. Someone...
I want to see that. I want to see what that would look like.
It's kind of shocking someone hasn't done more Marlon Brando. Like, maybe he's just not in the zeitgeist anymore.
Maybe they did it on, like, 1980s SNL.
I think that's also how I knew Brando, was from, like, sketches or, like, impersonations of him initially.
Right.
So I do think he was a bigger target for that. So when they're trying to roll the cameras at the first rehearsal, Donner's like, Brando is like, let's just improv. Who knows? We might get lucky.
Honestly, king.
I actually relate to his, like, laziness. Like, it's like, why work when you can just do it easy? Like, do an easier version of something. So he does show up to set. He's in this long flowing robe, and he does eventually learn his speech.
Even his clothing choices are lazy, and I love that. I love that he's always like, let's just throw a caftan on.
Put me in a robe, throw me behind a desk. Yeah. I'm sick of the turkey and tab.
Yeah.
I'm indulgent. That's who I am. So he memorizes the speech, and basically everyone is stunned because he gives this kind of Shakespearean, like, soliloquy about how he had to send Superman to Earth or whatever. And everyone is like, stunned with respectful silence when he finishes. And Donner says that the first take is the one they used in the movie, but it's probably because of his laziness. He's like, I need to get it done in one take and I'm done.
I need to rewatch this movie.
I actually was thinking that would be a fun rewatch because these movies I remember liking them.
I remember liking them too as a kid, and I was never into, like, Superman.
I feel like I like the earlier superhero movies more than the ones from the last 10 years.
Well, yeah.
Because it was like they were more like movies. Do you know what I mean? Like, not these, like, summer blockbuster types. Like, this was just a movie that was about Superman.
It was like a different vibe for sure. And obviously, like, superhero movies are incredibly popular still. I mean, the last however many I don't know, the last 10 years or more. But that's not for me personally, but I do remember enjoying this series.
I think it's also, I like that it's still not the age of computer and like computer generated stuff.
Right.
They had to do things.
There were so many practical effects.
Yeah.
And models.
I just like that style. I don't know.
I do too. And I think it's probably partially childhood nostalgia, but also I'm just a big fan of practical effects in general.
Me
and
too.
I always appreciate it when a new horror movie comes out and they use practical effects.
Same. So a lot of rumors are out there that Marlon's ego is oversized. He's being a dick on set, but everyone on the movie said he was delightful. A lot of people at this time, like I said, were really upset or haters due to the fact that Marlon was getting all this money for like 15 minutes work or whatever. But as he said, he's not forcing anyone. They just give it to him. Like, why shouldn't he take it?
Yeah.
But once again, this is kind of like, people always get mad at the individual and never the corporations taking all the money.
Right.
It's like, why aren't you mad at the MGM for stealing all the money or taking all billions and millions of dollars? Like,
right.
You're mad at this actor for getting a percentage. It's just like a weird way of looking at everything. So this is sort of like his most famous thing because he really got so much money for literally like being in the movie for 5 minutes. So it kind of became this trope about him.
Right.
And these movies are released, Apocalypse Now and Superman are kind of out at the same time. Superman is obviously a huge hit, and Apocalypse Now was kind of like initially. Obviously, eventually it does make a ton of money and is considered like a masterpiece by many people. Brando's performance in the movie, you know, definitely had mixed reviews because it's definitely like dramatic and over the top. David Denby said that the man had become so absurdly imposing that it's virtually unusable. He's virtually unusable because how can anyone act with him? And Tennessee Williams, I think he had a little something to do with the script. I'm not sure how much. But he famously said about Brando's $3.5 million fee for the role, gee, I don't know. I think they paid him by the pound.
Oh, come on.
Tennessee.
Don't
I mean, that's
fat
bitchy.
shame him.
That is bitchy. So that was sort of an infamous review at the time. And this was like definitely what Marlon faced for the rest of his life. Like
right.
People talking about his weight and obviously a lot of that stuff that really harms everyone. But he took it to heart. Like it definitely leads to him kind of becoming a recluse a lot of times. So now with a break before he films his next movie, he's back home in the fall of 1977. And he's like, now I'm going to focus on my kid, who's already like basically an adult. So he's like, maybe I'll buy him a coffee shop or a club for him to like manage. He then is like, well, why don't you become a welder? He knows of someone who's a welder. So he's like, gets private lessons for Christian to become a welder. But Christian eventually decides he wants to move to the Pacific Northwest and become a fisherman. So he does that. So Marlon basically, like I said, he's like, okay, I'm going to be a recluse now. He doesn't really leave the house. When he does, he's very weird about it and doesn't want anyone to know it's him, Marlon Brando. One of the more famous incidents is that a friend of his, Bobby Sherman, his wife has like a horse show or something. And he shows up to the horse show with his face wrapped in gauze like the Invisible Man with just a tiny opening where his mouth is.
At the horse show?
Yeah. And people are obviously staring at like, who is this guy?
Well, I mean, yeah. If you don't want attention, don't wrap yourself up like a mummy.
Well, Marlon seems to be getting off on the attention because they don't know it's him. And to make things even worse, he buys a hot dog at the horse show.
No.
And he tries to fit it through the small slit in the bandage. And then after he eats the hot dog, the gauze is covered with mustard and relish.
Oh my God. This is sick.
Bobby Sherman is mad. He's like, this is disgusting. And he's like, people are just staring at him even harder. And he really seemed to enjoy grossing them out. I think he was getting off on the fact that all these people were looking at him and weren't realizing that it was actually Marlon Brando. Jill was upset too and thought he was being ridiculous. In 1979, much to his dismay, Anna Kashfi releases a kiss and tell memoir, Brando for Breakfast.
This is his
ex, mother of Christian. So this is the one he had a huge custody battle with. And she's basically setting the record straight in the hopes that Christian will realize that she had been telling the truth about, his dad all along. Christian was really upset about the book, and he actually retreats to an Oregon cottage and has his phone taken away so she can't call him anymore. And in the book, she describes Brando as, quote, neurotic, a bisexual, a bigot, a lousy lover with no class and communication.
A bisexual?
Yeah, she owned his ass.
She's throwing bisexuals under the bus.
I know. So I wish I could get this memoir, but I wasn't able to. I'm sure it's very bitchy, and she definitely has an agenda. So Marlon's in Tahiti when the book comes out. So he's like, whatever. Both Christian and Marlon are back in LA in 1980, and Christian this time is trying to become an actor model, and Marlon gets him a job as a tree trimmer. So that's his day job.
It's like, I didn't want that.
No. So he actually is like getting his friends to hire him. He's like, can you do Jane? He calls Jane Fonda, and he's like, will you hire Christian to trim your trees?
This is like when your parents like, you like cat sit for your parents' friends or whatever.
Totally. So in 1981, Marlon is thrilled because Christian is going to marry his girlfriend, Amy McKenna, and she seems like she's a good influence on him. And he kind of is like, okay, maybe he's finally finding his way in this world. Now, Marlon is still seeing Jill Banner, but their relationship is troubled for many reasons. And one of them is that she is concerned about his weight and threatens to leave him if he doesn't lose weight. Now, he is having health issues at this point as well. As far as mobility goes, he's just having a lot of issues, but he's also depressed. So he's just kind of dealing with a lot. He seems to be dieting, according to Jill, but to her astonishment, he's like not losing weight no matter how hard he tries. Then she finds out that his friends had been throwing bags of Burger King Whoppers over the gate of Mulholland Drive into his estate late at night, and he would be getting them.
His enablers.
Who were his enablers? So, and he's still going to Tahiti to meet with investors. Now, in 1981, he goes to meet a couple named Nancy and John Todd. They are experts in like food ecosystems, energy experiments, et cetera. They're like at the height of their field. So he's getting like real professionals to come into this crazy world of his and this Tahitian island. They show up and no one's there to greet them. So they basically are like, well, I guess let's explore the island alone for a week.
Well, okay, why is Marlon Brando like pretty much Dr. Moreau? Why is he's doing experiments on a tropical island?
Yes, I know. That's why I probably took the part. So Nancy, they like basically aren't seeing anybody on this island. And she says that one day they're walking through the palms and she sees an older woman walking around wearing a red and white flowered sarong with a long-sleeved white shirt tied at the waist. She said, I could see saggy breasts and the body was pasty pale and heavy. It was a careful walk, not a casual walk. I stopped and stared and I wondered how I could have been on this tiny island for 5 days and not have met this old woman who was a very commanding presence. Later at lunch, Nancy was sitting there and was surprised when Brando came over to their table. She's like, that was the old woman I saw.
Oh, wow.
So he was like on the island
the whole time.
And they didn't even he didn't even go up to them to greet them. And she saw him and didn't realize it was him.
He didn't even say, like he wanted them to guess.
I don't know what he was doing. Rachel, he's so weird. It's crazy. So as I said, this island is a huge money pit. Shortly after this visit, typhoons destroy most of what he had built. So he's kind of back at ground zero. It's like disaster after disaster. He's more and more desperate to bring income in. And he allows Club Med to bring tourists in on a day trip from Bora Bora.
Not Club Med.
Yes. So Club Med is like, let's go to this private island. Will you see Marlon Brando? It's like the sales point.
Club Med is so 80s.
It's so 80s. And I was like, I didn't even know they were in Tahiti.
That seems like
that's
far.
Like the nicest Club Med, probably, right?
Do they even still have that anymore? I don't even know what is. Are they like all inclusive?
I think it's like all inclusive. Yeah. I don't. I'm obsessed with Club Med, but I don't know a ton about it.
I was like obsessed with it as a kid because I just remember hearing about it all the time, and then suddenly just like stopped hearing about it.
So isn't this like a is it singles too?
I don't know, but there was always like Club Med, and what was the other? Cancun. People loved going to Cancun in the 90s.
Yeah. So at some point, a group of 40 Italian tourists are going to this island from Club Med, hoping to catch a glimpse of Brando. And they go up to his empty bungalow and they're like, is he here? And
oh my God.
Brando's not there. So the tour guide kind of panics and goes into the...
They're acting like he's a wild animal.
Yeah, they go to like the back area behind the bungalow. And the tour guide said, this is Marlon's toilet. Which, to be honest, I would be excited about.
100%. They're like, this is the scene of the crime.
So they were all like bummed out that he wasn't there. But then all of a sudden they were like, everything changed instantly and they were ecstatic. He said they were almost kneeling in front of the toilet, like they were making signs to Mecca. Because for Italians, Marlon is a god, which is crazy. Why do Italians love him?
Is he Italian?
No.
He's not Italian?
No. I guess because of The Godfather?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe?
That makes sense.
Okay. So in 1982, he's 58. He is in therapy again because he's deeply depressed. But his unhappiness is like also sort of heightened by the fact that he's losing a lot of friends. One of his friends is diagnosed with cancer and has a poor chance of recovering. His former assistant has a fatal seizure. And Jill Banner, his longtime on and off girlfriend, gets into a car accident and dies.
Oh my God.
She dies like shortly after the accident happens. So he's really distraught. Christian is obviously upset as well. Brando can't even talk about Jill without getting like teary eyed. And he's literally in bed in grief and crying. He says later that although he let some women believe that he loved them, there was one woman that he loved more than any other, and that was Jill. In 1982, another close friend of his, Norman Gary, shot himself. This we talked about in the Julia Phillips episode. This guy was a successful entertainment lawyer who killed himself. His suicide led to this investigation of white-collar crime in the film industry, including taking down several people like David Melnick. Sherry Lansing got dragged into this. It ended up finding nothing, but like people were speculated that, oh, this is why he did it, because he was covering up all these crimes. Maybe we'll cover this kind of stuff because this happened a lot in the early 80s in the film industry. There was a lot of scandals. Eventually people thought maybe it was because he was diagnosed with stomach cancer. But Brando was deeply affected by all of these deaths as well. On top of all of this, Christian was back on the sauce and in the process of a divorce and living at Mulholland again. So that was also like another burden on Brando. While he's living at Mulholland in December of 1983, he gets arrested for shooting at an abandoned government missile silo on Mulholland. I don't know what the hell that is. He gets arrested and he calls Patricia Quinn to come bail him out of jail. And he's like, don't tell my dad, you got to come get me. But when she arrives, Brando's on the phone with like officers and he's like, let him stay there. Don't bail him out.
Wow.
And Patricia is obviously like, I can't do that. And Christian's scared too. He's like, don't bring me back to Mulholland. He'll kill me. So Christian says Marlon and him got physical sometimes, like the fights they would have. So when she drops him off at Mulholland, she doesn't know what else to do with him. He jumps the gate and runs off into the night. He like refuses to go back in there. Now, as I mentioned, his drinking is increasing. So is his drug use. He's using everything, LSD, PCP. The book says magic mushrooms. I don't know why I always think it's funny when they call it magic mushrooms.
It is funny.
And people talk about the Christian Brando breakfast, which is one slice of jalapeno cheese and a couple cans of Colt 45 high-octane beer.
That sounds disastrous for your stomach.
What is high-octane beer? That scares me. That sounds like it gives you an ulcer or something. So he's also starting to experience blackouts, and his father does try to get him into a treatment program at St. John's Hospital, but Christian is kicked out for noncompliance, which means he was smuggling in liquor. So he's basically just hanging out in the underbelly of Hollywood. He's getting deeper into drugs. He has several car accidents. His insurance rises to $3,500 a year, which is a lot, especially back then.
Yeah.
That's like most people will be like, I can't drive anymore then.
Right.
So he's hanging out, the book says he's hanging out, his life is dopers, hangers-on, and dumb bimbos. Sorry.
I've been there.
Been there. Sounds fine. And the dumb bimbos I'm fine with. So he's having a lot of one-night stands, and he's pissing off a lot of husbands and boyfriends because he's fucking everyone's wives and girlfriends. He doesn't give a shit.
Christian
is kind of like good looking at this point, I guess. Like
so
people,
he's like
people find him attractive.
So he's like getting a lot of action.
Yes. So Marlon tries to get his son into therapy with his therapist. Now, this doesn't go very well because according to Steve Honeyot, Christian's friend, Christian feels
That's his friend?
Yeah. Christian feels very manipulated in this situation, and he suspects that the doctor was reporting everything he said to Marlon back to Marlon.
Well, that's unethical.
Yes. So this experience leaves him with a severe distrust of psychologists or anyone who actually might help him deal with any of his issues. And he has a lot of anxiety that he won't be able to do it without help. So it's like a real struggle for him. And although many people are like, oh, Marlon was genuinely concerned, the doctor you're sending your son to shouldn't be reporting back everything he says to you. Like, that is just fucked up. So Marlon spends a lot of the 80s dealing with this Christian Brando shit. And he has a lot of lawsuits going on, including suing a lot of companies that he thinks owe him money. And he has a really weird one. I couldn't even go into all the details because it's so detailed in the book. But with Shogun author James Clavell, he's kind of suing him for paternity of a daughter that he adopted from Clavell's ex-girlfriend. It's like a really weird paternity suit where you're like, why is he involved in this? But it's like petty.
Yeah.
Like he's going after James Clavell nonstop, like for no apparent reason other than petty vengeance.
Right.
So he's also turning his Mulholland house into like a paranoia compound. He has listening devices. He has phone banks. He has this new assistant, Tom Papka, and in Manso's book, Tom Papka like lays out all of the surveillance, all of the kind of stuff that he has to do for Brando to make this sort of compound happen where Marlon can feel protected. And he's, also turning down requests for Marlon to appear at benefits and stuff like that because Marlon is basically like, I'm a recluse now. I'm not leaving the house for anything. One of the funnier incidents is the Reagan White House contacts Marlon to make an appearance at some gala or something, and he doesn't want to do it. So Papka is like, well, what should I tell them when they call back and ask me what you say? And he's like, tell them to take a flying fuck at a rolling donut. Marlon's only pleasure seems to be coming from disgusting behavior to get a rise out of people. Like that's his true love.
Yeah.
So we already talked about the gauze face hot dog eating. He often will just dribble food out of his mouth while he's eating with people. And one time he was at a lunch with a lot of people and he just let, according to the book, a loose, long, rippling glissando explosion of gas in the middle of the conversation, just waiting to see if people would say something to him.
Loose,
yes. I had to use the exact terminology because I was like, that is a lot of adjectives.
At a luncheon.
Yeah. So he's basically like, I feel like he's someone no one talks back to. So he's like, I'm going to fart so loud at lunch and I'll see these suckers not even say anything to me. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
These ass kissers will just let me fart and won't even say a goddamn word.
Right.
So Papka also says that one time he showed up back to Mulholland and in the bushes in front of the house, he saw 3 asses, including a really large one, which was Brando, in the bushes mooning him. But the peak of Brando's humor at this time was something called dial-a-fart. Now we're going to get into dial-a-fart. The actor was sitting around with Papka one day brainstorming ideas for making money, And Brando wanted to do something with the 976 numbers that were a local sort of version of 900 numbers at the time in LA. And he's like, why don't we do dial-a-fart? You have to identify famous movie stars' farts. Brando was really enthused about this conversation. He's like, I'll call up Charlton Heston and see if he'll fart for us. I'll call up Jack. There are dozens of people I can get to fart for us.
Wait a minute. I thought he was coming up with like, he was being conceptual, like this is how I would imagine Charlton Heston to fart. And he was making his own farts. Like, who do you think this is?
No, he wants to get real celebrities to fart and have people call in to hear the celebrity farts and guess who it is. Now, he also thinks that he has other ideas for this fart hotline. He also thinks that people can fart into their phone and join the fart identification, and that there'll be a contest where we have fart of the week, fart of the month, and fart of the year. And they can give big prizes for each fart. So it's not just for celebrities.
It's for anyone.
Now, Marlon goes even further. He's talking about this for weeks, all these dial-a-fart ideas. He also wants to go on a safari to Africa to record animals farting. He calls it the gas menagerie.
That'll show you Tennessee Williams.
Yes, exactly. So he's like, and imagine people have to guess, like, what is an elephant fart sound? He's like, what is the smallest audible wind we could capture? A mouse? Like, he wants to get all variations of animal farts as well. Now, Papka describes him calling his entertainment attorney, Alan Sussman, literally with the solemn nature of someone negotiating a film deal, telling him about dial-a-fart. He's like dead serious talking to his lawyer. And he's like, here's our ideas. He runs down all the dial-a-fart ideas from A to Z. He's like, what are the liabilities? Are there federal laws we'd be breaking? What are the local laws? Like, is this a viable business option? And the attorney is like laughing. And he finally says, Marlon, if you'll excuse the expression, if anyone gets wind of this, you're finished in Hollywood. And that's the end of dial-a-fart. I think he does think of it again later. Like, we got to still get this going. This is like his passion project.
He should have been on Howard Stern.
Oh my God. That would have been like a meeting of the minds.
It's truly.
One of the articles I read on like his fart, how much he loved farting, ended with a really funny line that I just had to share because it was like crazy. So like they go through all these different fart things. Most of them I've told throughout the episodes. And it says, his admiration of farting is just one more piece of his complex legacy. I was just like, okay. So now he's, he's still being a recluse at this period. I just love that this is what he's doing with his days. It's so relatable. Like in a way, like you get high and you're like, what if we put like ice cream on baguettes? Like, it's just like that kind of stuff. He's also a phone addict. Like he literally has these huge phone banks and spends all day talking to people on the phone. Marlon Brando is a person where you're like, I can't answer this call because I'll be on it for 3 hours.
Right.
And he did make one exception, though, when it came to meeting people in person. He began giving private acting lessons, and that was something that really revitalized his interest in acting again. His student, Michael Jackson.
Oh, my God.
So Brando had been friends with Quincy Jones like since the late 60s. And he actually stayed in touch with Jones all these years. And one of the main reasons was because he liked taking his kids to Michael Jackson's concerts. And Quincy obviously had the hookup, especially Cheyenne, his daughter, who would visit from Tahiti to go to these concerts. Through this connection, he also got his son, Miko, hired as Jackson's bodyguard. And it was Miko who saved Michael Jackson when his hair caught on fire in January of 1984. He's the guy who put the fire out on Michael Jackson's head. His hair caught on fire.
During the Pepsi commercial.
The Pepsi commercial. It was a really big story. Like, it was, like, he was disfigured a little bit from that hair. And a lot of people speculate that was where a lot of his drug use probably started, like painkillers and stuff like that. So it wasn't unusual for Miko at this point to bring Michael Jackson up to Mulholland Drive house. And Brando was really interested in Michael Jackson because he kind of was really famous at this time, like just sort of like outrageously famous. Like you couldn't get more famous than Michael Jackson at this period. Michael saw Brando as a father figure and like an idol. And Brando was kind of like, I'm going to teach you how to deal with crazy fame. Like that was sort of his initial goal. And then he also, like Michael Jackson wanted to learn how to act. So that's how the acting lessons kind of also started. And Brando talked to Martin Scorsese about writing a film for them to star in together. His idea was that Brando would play God and Jackson would play the devil. That's all he gave Martin to work with. Obviously, it never happened. So they were just kind of like two weirdos.
Yeah.
Like they're, what's that new meme? They're freaks matched.
Yeah.
Like they had like a very similar, weird fucking personality. And both of them had dealt with this, you know, very extreme fame that they kind of had to deal with. So yeah, I mean, Michael recorded all of these acting lessons, and I obviously haven't like listened to them, or I didn't really look up too much. But one of them, they were very weird, and Marlon always talked about himself in the third person in these. Like, here's what he would do to cry on stage, as if it was like a separate person. And sometimes he would even include things like poems. One was called Marlon Brando to Michael Jackson, and he gave him all this advice in a poem. And at the end, it said, Brando told you. Like, it's just like weird shit like this. He even gets Patricia Quinn a job with Michael Jackson because a girl he was dating at the time didn't like that she worked for him because it was his ex. So she was jealous, and he was like, I'll fire you, but I'm going to get you a job working for Michael Jackson. So Patricia Quinn and Brando go over to Michael Jackson's home one day in Encino. When she arrives to meet Michael Jackson, he opens the door and he's dressed in a Pinocchio outfit with a long nose.
That is chilling.
So she's like, that was really surreal. He was standing there like a character out of a Disneyland parade, and he spent the entire meeting in that getup. We were both kind of nonplussed. It was so extraordinary. Marlon's idea was that since Michael was starting a production company, I could help get in on the ground floor. But after 6 weeks, I couldn't bear it any longer. I was in Michael's bedroom with him, looking over my shoulder as I, doing what he requested, was changing his chimp's diaper. So that was the final straw for Patricia, and she quit shortly after that incident. And Marlon was like, what are you doing? This is going to be big.
It's Michael and Bubbles.
Oh my God. So can you imagine Michael Jackson opening the door in the Pinocchio, like with the nose?
I would lose it.
She's probably like, I need to get away from these freaks. So Marlon is struggling to get some pet acting projects off the ground while simultaneously, once again, struggling to lose weight, which wasn't going well. Like in the late 80s, he was really famous for being spotted regularly buying ice cream from a Beverly Hills ice cream shop, 5 gallons at a time. He supposedly confessed at some point that he was eating it all himself. Now, I actually looked up something recently, and I got like a Gilbert Gottfried podcast clip where a comedian was telling a story about seeing Brando buy ice cream at this shop. And it was surreal, just seeing him.
What a sighting.
Yeah. He was like, that was the craziest thing that ever happened to me. And he also, another famous snack of Brando's was he would cook a pound of bacon and shove it into an entire loaf of bread and eat it. I feel like Brando's inventive.
Yeah.
So Michael would try to help Brando with his diet by bringing him fresh vegetables from his garden. Just picture him with a basket of carrots.
Yeah.
So he's over 300 pounds at this point. And the weight doesn't stop him from getting laid. At this time, Marlon knocks up his much younger housekeeper, Christina Ruiz. And in 1989, they have a daughter, Nina. After she's born, Marlon buys Christina and Nina a house in the valley for them to live in. He's like, go over here. So he finally lands another movie role in The Freshman with Matthew Broderick. This is where he's playing, it's a comedy, and he's playing a Godfather type character. This is filming in Toronto, and 2 of his children mistakenly think they were invited to come by come by the set and be with him while he's filming in Toronto. Christian and his daughter Cheyenne, who actually flew from Tahiti to Toronto to the set. And he was like, nope. Like she went all the way there. She like loses it. So Cheyenne is quoted as saying, he deceived me. He said I could visit, and I made arrangements for me to come to Toronto. I wanted to see how movies were made and see my father act, which I had never done before. But most of all, I just wanted to be with him. But then he started playing games, and then that night he told me I couldn't come. I got so mad, and that's when I had my accident. So she basically gets into a car crash. She's driving 100 miles per hour in this Jeep, and it rolls into a ditch. She has massive head and face injuries, and Brando flies her to Los Angeles to be treated by a specialist. He does rush from the set in Toronto to be by her bedside. She has 7 metal plates into her skull and undergoes extensive plastic surgery. So when he returns to Toronto to continue filming, he's literally in pieces. Like he is like not barely able to hold it together. When the movie wraps, he does throw a big party. He hands out gifts. He's like joking with all the cast, including Matthew Broderick. But unbeknownst to all of them, he had already given an interview to a reporter from the Toronto Globe and Mail in which he trashes the entire production. So this story drops August 31st. Everybody is like losing it over his complete contempt for the movie. He's like, it's horrible. It's going to be a flop. And after this, I'm retiring. I'm so fed up. This picture, except for the Canadian crew, was an extremely unpleasant experience, and I wish I hadn't finished it off with a stinker. When he realizes the movie might be a hit, he changes his tune because he has points in the movie. So the truth does eventually come out that Marlon did it because the studio had been stingy with him on his like per diem.
Yeah.
He thought that they owed him $50,000. So he was going to destroy the movie basically just to get this $50,000. He does call Matthew Broderick and apologize, but Matthew's kind of like, okay, like, thanks for the apology, but you already trashed us like in public.
Yeah.
And no one hears this phone call. So he does get his $50,000 though. So he's back in LA. And all of the chaos in his life, especially with his family, comes to a head on May 16th, 1990, when Marlon Brando calls 911 to report a shooting at his home on Mulholland Drive. Soon after, Christian Brando, his 32-year-old son, has been handcuffed and is on his way down to the station for questioning. So that's where we'll end. We'll be back for more next week. Find out what happened. Why is Christian being taken away? Who did he shoot?
Oh my God.
What's going to happen?
Well, Desi, what a cliffhanger to leave us on.
Will dial-a-fart ever happen? Is that something we need to pick up for Marlon?
I mean, anyway, if you'd like to subscribe to our Patreon, it's patreon.com/Hollywood Crime Scene. You can get ad-free episodes and bonus episodes that are not available on this feed.
Yeah. And we'll post some more pics.
And we'll post pictures on our Instagram. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Desi.
You're welcome.